Welcome back for another episode of NFL TV. I'm Samuel Zito, joined again by Liam Mighty Quinn. And Liam, a big weekend last week and this weekend in Division 1. 3 really big games which have a massive impact on how the ladder will shape up come finals time.
Yeah, we obviously saw a really close game last Saturday between Heidelberg and Northcote Park, but as you said, some massive games this week, so it should be fantastic.
Well, that was another really good one in the NFL match of the day. I think 3 of our past 4 games will be decided within the last 2 minutes or so, so we're getting some close ones. And this week we're back out to Greensboro to watch Greensboro versus Bundoora. And yet again, I don't think there'll be too much separating those two sides. Last time around it was 5 points in Greensboro's favour. We saw that game, but I guess Bundoora led all day, so Greensboro pitched at the end, so that should be another close one. But the first game on the agenda this weekend is McLeod hosting Montmorency. And it's two sides who really still good chances of making the top 5. McLeod unfortunately didn't do themselves any favours last weekend, led by 6 goals at half time against Eltham and let slip of a game they really shouldn't have lost. Monty, on the other hand, absolutely annihilated North Heidelberg in the big charity day down at Parr Road, of course. And the game played to raise funds and awareness for Beyond Blue and also the White Ribbon campaign. There was great festivities off the field, but unfortunately on the field there wasn't much for the spectators to take away from the game. I guess if you're a Mont fan, you would have enjoyed it, but in the end, 117-point winners. At one stage, it was 16 goals to 0 as well. So North Heidelberg definitely struggling there. Monty, a big win. And it'll be a lot different this time at De Winton against McLeod. And as we mentioned, both sides still a great chance of making that top 5. Monty now 6 wins and 6 losses. McLeod just behind 1 game less. But at De Winton, McLeod has some pretty good form. But having said that, Monty probably the form side of those sides outside the top 5 for the past 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah, they've been playing fantastic ever since that really poor start from Monty. They've really turned it around and playing some really good footy. But down there at De Winton Park, McLeod have been very good all year. Obviously, their best win would be when they knocked off Greensboro down there. But they'd be upset they let slip that one against Eltham last week, especially with now North Park sort of slipping up a little bit in 5th. They're both well and truly in the finals hunt, and you'd think that if McLeod lose this one and they go 2 or maybe 3 games outside the finals, they'll probably be in a bit of trouble the rest of the year.
I reckon you're right there. I think McLeod loses this one and that's it. I think you shut up. Internally they would shut up shop, but I think as an external viewer of the club, you think that they're in big trouble making the top 5 from there. They'd be 5 and 8, and I guess they couldn't really afford to lose one at home because their form away from home hasn't been as crash shot. But definitely they'll back themselves there. You mentioned that win against Greensboro. They also had that huge win against Northcote Park as well. So they have beaten some really good sides at home. And Monty, I guess they weren't. I guess for a side that was 0-4, you always expected them to come home hard, and it's exactly what they've done. They've got some form. Ben Haynes is back in some magnificent form. I spoke to him yesterday, and as he said, he's starting to get a bit of confidence back in the body week by week. Kicked 6 on the weekend against North Heidelberg, and he wasn't. I don't think he was there last time. Actually, he might have actually been there last time when these two teams played. But on that day, Monty got up by 7 goals, despite McLeod having more scoring shots. So this should be a close one, and I think that McLeod at home will win this one, but I reckon by no more than 10 points, and Monty still will give themselves every chance of winning that one. Next game for the round probably won't be as close to call. It's going to be North Heidelberg hosting West Preston, and the Doggies, it's hard to know what to really say about them from here. They're really struggling, haven't won a game, and seem to be getting further away from the win each week. On the weekend, just the 3 goals against Montmorency. No goals in the first half. It's getting pretty difficult for them. I think they're resigned now to the fact that they are definitely going down for the first time in their illustrious history. West Preston had their 7-game winning streak broken last weekend against Greensboro. Went down by 7 points. Didn't really utilise the wind in the first quarter when they had a strong breeze, and only went up. I think actually went down into quarter time and didn't make use of that wind and struggled from there on in. So you think this week at Charlie Street Reserve they would have a problem getting back on the winners list?
Yeah, you look at it as a pretty tough game though for West Preston last week against Greensboro. Obviously, it's going to be incredibly different calibre of opposition than they come up against with North Heidelberg this week, who I think from what you were saying, I didn't kick a goal until they were 100 points down on the weekend. So a bit unfortunate for North Heidelberg and North Heidelberg fans if they were to watch that one, but they should struggle as well against West Preston. You're thinking the Roosters will comfortably bounce back and they'll maintain 2nd, I think, if they win tomorrow.
Well, if they win, they'll hold down 2nd spot, but I guess Bundoora is just that 1 game ahead of them now. But it is a good effort by the Roosters. Only 1 loss in the past 2.5 months, and I'm sure they'll get back on the winners list on Saturday. The other game, which It could be one-sided just given Whittlesea's results in the past 2 weeks, but having said that, they have beaten the Cougars this year. It's Whittlesea up against Northcote Park. It's out at the Whittlesea Showground, so that'll give Whittlesea great confidence going back onto their home park, hopefully with a few extra key senior players back into the side. Still waiting on Andrew Fairchild to come back, and on the weekend really struggled against Bundoora. They haven't got close to the Bulls in 2 outings this year. They really hurt the weekend, went down by 100 points despite winning the last quarter. And again, it was Moorcroft, Harrison, Cloak, the big names in the forward line, getting the job done for the Bulls, and twice have really destroyed the Eagles in the 2 outings this year. For Whittlesea, 200-point losses in a row, so they're going to be keen to atone for that and really make a stand this weekend. But having said that, Northcote Park really need to win now to stay inside that top 5. Should they lose, they're a chance of actually dropping out for the first time this year if Montmorency wins. And I think based on that alone, there's just so much to play for. They can't lose this game. On the weekend, went down to Heidelberg, which doesn't sound too bad, but I guess when you look at the Heidelberg side that's on paper, Northcote Park definitely should have won the game. The likes of Houlihan and Sinclair and both the Nolans out, and of course Craig Whelan goes down with a shoulder injury in the second quarter. All indicators would have suggested that Northcote Park would have won that game, and when they were 17 points up in the third quarter, you thought they'd just run away with it. But to Heidelberg's credit, they came back and won that one, and it leaves Northcote Park in a pretty dangerous position after 12 rounds in the competition. And for all the good work, should they somehow lose this one here, they're in big trouble. But I think even away from home, I think they'll get this one back against the Eagles.
Yeah, and it was amazing. Obviously, the worrying thing with North, they conceded about 4 goals in the last 10 minutes or so as well, and then even when they got to go with about 2 minutes left, they got up by 7 points, and then they still managed to let it slip from there. So a bit worrying for the Cougars. They could hold on to the lead, and then the game against Whittlesea is one of those ones we've been talking about all year with Northcote, when they've even said themselves a little bit, they get up for big teams and then sort of play down to lesser teams sometimes, and it's a real sort of danger game going off Northcote Park's form so far this year. But if Whittlesea can get Fairchild back this week, that'll be a massive in, but without him you think they'd struggle to kick goals, and Northcote Park should still get the win, but Whittlesea could really push them to the line.
Well, it's a good point you make, because we did speak to Matty Armand a couple of weeks back against before the West Preston game, and he did say that he felt that his sides probably went in a bit too confident against the sides below them on the ladder. And on the weekend, I guess they weren't made aware of the fact that Heidelberg had made those 4 late changes, so I guess they didn't drop their guard in any respect. But I guess when they, as you mentioned, up by 17 points and up by 7 points with about 3.5 minutes to go on the clock, you thought they could hold on from there, but unfortunately conceded the last 3 goals in that short amount of time, went down. Their ball use at a half-back is really good. I think their midfield of Davies and Scanlon are just genuine stars, and off the half-back line you get both crackers, and then also the O'Connell brothers as well. And Paddy O'Connell played a blinder on the weekend, so they got some form at the back line. Just on the weekend, Saad probably struggled a bit up forward, and going forward they lacked a bit of potency, I felt at times, and despite the ball use being pretty good, they just weren't able to find some goals, and still kicked 13 goals at the end of the day. But I just felt at certain times they probably could have definitely kicked a few more had they made the most of their opportunities. And their opponent last week, Heidelberg, is actually the next game we'll look at. It's Heidelberg up against Altham. It's at Warringal Park, and the Panthers, I guess, needing to win again to keep their final chances alive. I think every week for them now is a must-win, and they managed to come back from 36 points down last week. I think it might have been 34 points at half-time, and just pinch a win, which was in remarkable circumstances. As in Heidelberg, I guess, as well, but the Panthers haven't beaten Heidelberg for 29 years, stepping back to the Division 2 days. I think 1982 was the last time they won, and Heidelberg, you just think that they could win with the side they had in last week, and they get a few of those players back. They're a dangerous side, and looking forward, they're really a major threat again in 2011.
Yeah, and talking to Jess Sinclair last week, he seemed to say that he'd be probably back this week, and same goes for the Nolan brothers. So straight away, there's three massive into the sides. But one of the great things Heidelberg last week, Jackson down back playing on Saad for Northcote. You said Saad was a bit slow for the Cougars, but Jackson was fantastic. He pretty much stopped the best forward in the competition at the moment, or the most informed forward. So they'd be very happy they found a key defender. It looks like down there for the Tigers, but yeah, you think they'll be too strong for the Panthers, and it might extend to 30 years without a win if they don't get it this week. Well,
it could be the case. And another one who played really well was I think it's Yeza or Yetzi. I'm not 100% sure of the pronunciation, but he came in and he made a stellar game off half back, his first game for the year in the seniors, and he was magnificent. Actually, felt he was probably in the top 5 players on the ground today. Blair Harvey played another ripper game, as you just come to expect every week from him. So they got a good spread of players on the weekend, and they all did their job. And Saul Caddy probably had a bit of lowered his colours a little bit. Still kicked the winning goal at the end, was able to get away, and despite all that, and so they're in some good form. They were struggling against, as mentioned a couple of times in this program at the start of the year, but they've come good at the right time of the year, and they're certainly going to be playing finals football this year, which is a major concern for all the other 4 teams who will make it as well. So definitely one to look out for. And Alvin, I guess on the weekend, you can't all credit to them because they come from 34 points down. We've seen the 2 games they've played against McLeod this year, just absolute nail biters both time around. Almost like the Sydney and West Coast rivalry of the mid 2000s, where they just every game just seems to be within 8 or so points. And it was 1 point the first time around. This time it was 7 points. And I think both times, even the first game of the year, I think round 7 when they lost to McLeod, they still came from 6 goals down. Drew level, McLeod blew back out, and of course they closed it down at the end, just fell a bit short. So both games following the same script almost there. And the final game of the round for us to look at is Bundoora travelling to War Memorial Park to take on Greensborough. It could be a bit of a grudge match, of course. Bundoora losing their first game of the year to Greensborough about 5 weeks ago, and since then have lost another one to Heidelberg, but otherwise haven't done too much wrong in 2011 and looking pretty good. Still a game clear on top of the ladder given West Preston's loss last week, and I think Greensborough hasn't strung 2 wins together in a row since round 5, so they'll be looking to actually, for quite a while, get 2 wins on the board, which they've struggled to do. So not too sure. They've been a bit inconsistent, but they keep beating those sides above them, which is amazing. We saw it again on the weekend when they beat West Preston in the game. We didn't think they'd probably win, and probably losing to the sides where we think they could win. So it's interesting to see. Their form line's hard to tip them really, but Bundoora hard to go by again. But probably having said that now, that Greensborough is probably not expected to win. They might get another 4 points on the board this week. Regardless of what happens, it's going to be a close game, and it should be an absolute cracker on the NFL match of the day.
Yeah, it'd be a great sign for Greens when you think they've beaten Heidelberg, Bundoora and West Preston this year. So as I said, all the sides that they probably have to beat if they were to go all the way in the Premiership this year in the finals, and they've shown they can not only match it with them but knock them off on their day, which would be fantastic for the Slime. But with Bundoora, obviously they're amazingly, their percentage I think is about 189 or something this year. So they're just dominating teams at the moment, which is almost unheard of to have that high percentage. You've got the highest scoring offense and the stingiest defense, so they're pretty tough to go past. They're just a machine at the moment, Bundoora. And again, as I said last week, with 14 goals coming from Cloak, Moorcroft and Harrison, they've got those trio up forward who can just pretty much win a game off their own boot, and they should be too strong, I think, against Greensborough this week. Obviously, Greensborough had a great win against them last time, but I don't think Jenkins is playing for Greensborough this week. Obviously, in the last game, he was huge. He was best on ground. He probably was worth 5 points alone. So I think Bundoora should be too strong, but should be a very close game though.
Well, I guess the other thing which you mentioned in your match preview, which is on the website and in the record this week, is the fact that Greensborough will probably go with their best forward line for the season this week, because obviously Bonjetti's in some fine form, kicked another 4 on the weekend, so he's going about his business just nice there the last 3 weeks in particular. Josh Riddle was back on the weekend, kicked 4 against West Preston. Aaron Burns should be back this week as well, so they've got a pretty potent forward line themselves. But I guess in the 2 games I've watched them at War Memorial Park, they've actually probably preferred a lower scoring game, but I think both times they've won with a score of about 80 points or so. So it'd be interesting to see if we get a high scoring game there. It is a smaller ground to play on as well, so it'd be interesting, and if it depends on the elements as well, the kind of game we get. But I guess Bundoora will be looking for a high scoring game, and Greensborough perhaps might look to close it down. But it should be a cracker, so make sure you're tuning in to 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. Myself, Liam, and also Sam Patrick will be calling all the action from 10 past 2. Of course, at 1 o'clock we have the preview show, so make sure you're tuning in then, and stay tuned below because we'll preview all of the action for Division 2 and Division 3. See you soon.